This incredible story took place in Russia. When Andrei Musienko went for a walk in the nearby forest on a cold winter morning in Siberia, he suddenly heard an unusual sound. He followed the sound, which didn't seem too far away, and quickly found its source. There was a small animal, a scared little creature, clinging to a tree. It was a puppy, not more than a few weeks old. Andrei couldn't understand why someone would abandon a helpless puppy in the middle of the forest. This incident saddened Andrei deeply. He approached the trembling animal and took the puppy into his arms. Hoping to give the poor creature some warmth, he held it tightly. After spending a few minutes under Andrei's care, the puppy's trembling stopped, and it began to seem like it was feeling better. Andrei realized that he had gained the animal's trust in just a few hours, and decided to take the puppy with him and adopt it. But you won't believe what happened in the following weeks. The puppy was female, and Andrei named her Akela. Over the next few months, Akela grew rapidly. Andrei noticed that his new pet was very eager to eat, which had been the case since the first day, and Akela's hunger seemed to increase over time. Andrei knew that young animals needed a lot of food. However, Akela's eating habits continued to bother Andrei. As the female dog grew, her facial features became sharper, and her body shape seemed to broaden. This was a mystery he couldn't solve. Andrei had some friends who were dog owners, but even they had no idea. Their heads were as puzzled as Andrei's. Andrei's curiosity grew every day, as the animal continued to change every day. He sent photos and videos of the dog to some acquaintances, hoping to learn what was going on, but his efforts were in vain. As a last resort, Andrei consulted an animal expert and requested a personal meeting. When they arrived, the expert was shocked when he saw Andrei's animal, and Andrei couldn't believe his eyes. He had thought all along that he was raising a dog, but he later learned that it wasn't a dog at all. It turned out that Akela was a wolf. And what made the situation even more interesting was that Akela was not just any wolf, but a Eurasian gray wolf, one of the largest wolf species in the world. After learning the true species of his beloved pet, Andrei had to decide what to do next. News of a man raising a wolf spread rapidly in the region. As expected, when the news began to spread throughout the country, Andrei was bombarded with phone calls and emails trying to convince him to surrender Akela. After all, no one had ever raised such a wild animal, and no one knew what problems might arise. Andrei was being pressured to take her to the zoo. However, Andrei had heard many bad stories about zoos. He didn't even want to visit such a place, let alone take his furry friend there. The fact that the zoo would exhibit one of the largest wolves in the world would certainly attract many visitors, and Akela would be greatly affected by this. He couldn't allow that. However, the alternative was not very appealing either. Many people were urging Andrei to release Akela into the wild. Some were concerned for Andrei and his surroundings. After all, she was a dangerous predator. But Andrei wasn't sure if Akela could cope with the forest. She had spent her entire life under Andrei's care, and suddenly she would be alone. She didn't know how to cope in the wild on her own, and she had never learned to hunt. She would likely die of hunger soon after being released. There were also poachers in the area waiting to hunt Andrei's rare wolf. While some people argued that this was the only right thing to do, Andrei refused. Akela had already spent so much time with Andrei and had adapted to her new lifestyle that it made more sense to let the wolf stay with him. Andrei didn't feel right about giving her up, so he decided to listen to his heart and keep the female wolf by his side. However, the story took an unexpected turn. Local authorities had to take action when they heard about this extraordinary case. Despite Andrei's efforts to explain that he had rescued Akela and raised her, forming a close bond, the authorities insisted that keeping a wolf in a residential area was unsafe and that she needed to be housed in a proper facility. Since Andrei didn't have the financial means to build a suitable enclosure for Akela, her fate was sealed. A truck accompanied by wildlife officials came to take Akela away. The wolf was loaded into a transport cage and taken away. Andrei felt deeply saddened to see his wolf being taken away. Akela looked confused and scared. She seemed bewildered and frightened as she was loaded onto the truck. Upon arriving at the wildlife center, Akela was placed in a cage. But as she came into contact with other wolves, her condition worsened and she spent most of her time in a corner of the cage. Andrei visited her regularly, but it was clear that Akela was not happy. Andrei couldn't bear to see his wolf's distress and knew he had to do something. So he decided to share Akila's story on social media. He recounted their first meeting, the time they spent together, the deep bond between them, and the injustice of Akila being confined to a cage far away from him. The story spread rapidly. People from all over the world were touched by the story, and many wanted to donate to build a large, suitable enclosure for a wolf. In a very short time, Andrei raised enough money to build a habitat that met a wolf's needs. After long negotiations with the authorities, Andrei finally obtained a special permit to keep a wolf and was allowed to take Akila back. The joy of reuniting was indescribable. Akila couldn't contain her happiness. It was an incredible moment to be back in a familiar environment. Akila was both more vibrant and happier. Andrei had finally achieved his goal, but he had no intention of stopping. Providing a home for a wolf was wonderful, but his relationship with the wolf had inspired him to do more. There were still other animals in need, and Andrei now had the right to give them a good home. Many animal lovers had seen Andrei's efforts and success. Many people wanted to contribute to the care of the wolves and other animals, and he gratefully accepted these offers. People knew about his natural abilities with animals. If they saw an injured wolf or any other wild animal, they would immediately call Andrei. Andrei couldn't say no to any animal in need. He would take them in and provide treatment. Andrei continues to do everything he can for wildlife, building shelters and caring for them, putting all his heart and soul into giving the animals in his care the love they deserve. He has already changed many lives and shows no signs of stopping. His biggest dream is to create large habitats for all the animals in his care, starting with Akila. Andrei's story is a true success story. If he had given in to the pressure and sent Akila to the zoo, he wouldn't have achieved any of this. Maybe Akila would have lost her life in the zoo. Andrei persevered without giving in, working tirelessly for Akila, himself and all the wolves and animals in need. And he continues to do so. We can say that this story truly ended happily. If this story has touched you as much as it has us, click on the card on the right to watch this video. A woman finds a wolf in the forest and raises it. An escaped convict tries to kill the woman, but the wolf saves her life. You should definitely watch this video too. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the channel.